present. Hello, class, and welcome to Marxism 101 at the University of Toronto. My name is Professor Joseph Pileggi, and today, for our second class, we will be looking at a Marxist analysis of A Knight's Tale. First, let's begin with a brief synopsis of the film. Well, A Knight's Tale is a 2001 comedy/action movie by Columbia Pictures. In the movie, peasant-born William Thatcher begins a quest to change his stars, and in the process, wins the heart of a fair maiden. With the help of his friends, he faces the ultimate test of medieval gallantry, jousting tournaments, and discovers if he has the determination to become a legend. A Knight's Tale supports an anti-Marxist society. What this means is that the film does not occur in a classist society, but rather in a society that supports Marx's notion that maintaining economic power is the motive behind all social and political activities. This idea can be highlighted through these 3 points, the first of which can include how there is an evident divide of the social classes. The divide is between the upper class and the lower class, or the nobles and the peasants. The second point can include how there is exploitation among these classes, mainly how the upper class exploits the lower class. And finally, how there's a subtle revolution to aim for a classist society. Although, like Marxist states, this never successfully happens, the society still has classes. Now, we can take a look at the capitalists, or the bourgeois. These are the haves. The capitalists or bourgeois in this film include all the nobles, ranging from the kings, who is King Edward, to the dukes, earls, priests, and knights, or everyone that has a title before their name. They control the world's natural, economic, and human resources, which would be mainly land at this time period, as this film takes place in a farming society, or a society before the year 1850. As you can see in this picture, we have a capitalist and a proletariat. The capitalist has a huge plate full of food, multiple foods, and is enjoying all the luxuries in life, while the proletariat is skinny on the other hand and has an empty plate. And in this picture, you can notice that only the capitalist who has all the food continues to be served, while the proletariat who has nothing is not being served. Moving on, we can learn who the proletariats are. These are the have-nots. This is the majority of the English population who live in standard or even subpar conditions. They have always performed the manual labor to make the rich richer. This includes the merchants, manual laborers like blacksmiths, and farmers. William Thatcher, son of John Thatcher, is part of this working class. As you can see here, this is John Thatcher, William's father, working and living in Sheepside, or the poor end of town. You can also see in this picture Kate, and she is a blacksmith working in the working class. In this picture, you can see all the proletariats who are going to work each day and working extremely hard only to fuel the economy for the mega corporations. In A Knight's Tale, there's a major division between these classes, and we are first introduced into this division right at the beginning of the movie, where we can see William talking with his friend Roland. Well, William had just won his first jousting championship and is feeling very excited and ambitious to travel across England and compete in other tournaments to try and earn money and fame for himself and his friends. Well, Roland, hearing this, responds to him saying, "We're peasants. Glory and riches are beyond our grasp." He also says, "You must be of noble birth to compete." Well, this tells us that only nobles can compete in these tournaments, and that William, not being a noble, if caught, would be severely punished. This also shows us the setbacks and limitations a proletariat must feel, and how they do not have equal opportunities as nobles. Another example can be heard from Geoffrey, William's announcer, when he says, "My lords and ladies, and everyone else not sitting on a cushion today." Well, this statement shows us the evident social divide, even in the stadiums, where the people of power have cushioned seats and sit in seats that yield the best views, while the remaining seats with poor views are left for the proletariats. Another example can be the flashback of William as a child asking his father if he could ever be a knight, to which an overhearing man responds, "A Thatcher's son, a knight? You might as well try to change the stars." Well, this just shows us the mentality of the proletariats and how it is almost impossible to change their stars or change their destiny, and that they are destined to be a proletariat forever. The social divide doesn't just end there. Marxist analysis of human activities is in terms of the distributions and dynamics of economic power. Well, the nobles in the film have far more power and social presence, as they all have the luxuries in life, living in lavish churches and households, opposed to the proletariats, who lack that empowering surname and reside in the poorest ends of the villages. As you can see in this picture, this is the nobles. They live in the castles, having great parties with nice feasts, and wear the best clothing, as opposed to the proletariats. These people live in the poorest end of town, called Sheepside, and they're all crammed very close together and live with animals close to them. Well, as an example, there's a hole in John Thatcher's roof. These people also wear everyday clothing as they don't have the money to afford all the beautiful clothing that the nobles wear. In addition to the social divide, there's also exploitation amongst the classes. Marx believed that the bourgeois exploit the proletariat. This exploitation allows the bourgeois to succeed, and on the other end, the proletariat only maintains their wealth and economic power, which is held to a minimum. In this case, the nobles exploit the peasants, using them for labor to fuel the economy. For example, Kate is a blacksmith, and she does the manual labor, and despite how much she works, she can never increase her wealth significantly enough to become a bourgeois. She only works to pay taxes to support the bourgeois and make them richer. This noble exploitation is evident during several instances during the movie, one of which can include when Count Adamir says to William, "He that strives to touch a star oft stumbles at a simple straw." What he is telling William is that no matter how many times you try to change your stars, it is your destiny to remain a proletariat forever, and you will never become successful enough to become a noble. Another example can include when Count Adamir discovers William is not a noble, and he informs the royal guard to capture William and impersonate him. Well, William's friends tell him, "A dozen royal guards, they'll put you in the stocks." This just shows that anyone who's trying to change their stars and act out of their social class will be punished. Another example can include when Adamir visits William in jail and says to him, "In what world could you have ever beaten me?" Well, this example and all of the examples above enforce the Marxist notion that the rich stay rich if the poor remain poor. The nobles do no manual labor, they just profit from the proletariat's hard work and taxes, living lavish lives doing nothing, only because they have a title before their name. You may be asking, why not revolt? If the proletariats outnumber the bourgeois, why don't they revolt and make a classless society in which they are not exploited, but instead everyone is treated fairly and justly? Well, what's holding them back are ideologies. In A Knight's Tale, religion can be seen as an ideology, which keeps the faithful poor satisfied with their lot in life. And if they're not satisfied, they are at least tolerant. And this prevents them from fighting back, with the idea to follow God's will and be rewarded in the afterlife. Religion was a very popular ideology in the medieval times. As you can see, it was used by Geoffrey many times during William's announcements. In addition, fear prevents the proletariats from revolting. They are being oppressed, and if they try to rearrange their stars, they will be punished, just like how William was thrown into the stocks. Likewise, if they act out of line, they will also be punished. For example, the dead body shown at the beginning of the movie, which is right here in this scene, shows the consequence of someone who doesn't obey the upper class. William says, "I won't spend the rest of my life as nothing." And Roland replies to him, pointing it to the dead body and saying, "That is nothing," showing William what would happen to them if they got caught trying to rearrange their stars and trying to act out of line. Although not all of the proletariats revolt against the bourgeois, there is a minor revolution in the movie. Marx believed that the proletariats who are tricked into a false consciousness are blind to their exploitation of their labor, but they are capable of achieving a class consciousness, and with this recognition, they will revolt and create a classless society, although this never happens. But in A Knight's Tale, we can observe a subtle revolution, a changing of the stars, and this is between William's aspiration. At the beginning of the movie, we can see William training to be the best jouster and to earn a lot of fame and become noble. Well, he says to his friend Roland, "How did the nobles become noble in the first place? They took it at the tip of a sword. I'll do it with a lance." What he's telling Roland is that the nobles took their nobility in the first place at the tip of a sword, and that he will strive to earn his nobility using his lance and being great at jousting. Another example can be when William is a child and he asks his father, "Can it be done, father? Can a man change the stars?" His father reassures him, saying, "Yes, William, if he believes enough, a man can do anything." Well, this fuels William's aspiration to become successful and to become noble. Another example can include when William says, "I will not run, I am a knight." This is William's response to his friends who are telling him that the royal guard are on their way to imprison him for competing in the events while not being born noble. This quote exemplifies the true nobility of William, despite him not being born noble. Another example can include when the prince rewards William for his nobility. He says, "Take a knee, by the power vested in me by my father, King Edward, and by all the witnesses here, I dub thee Sir William." William had worked hard his whole life and finally earns his nobility as he is knighted by the prince as Sir William. Sir William. William Thatcher, a peasant born, disguised as Sir Ulrich von Liechtenstein, changes his stars and is knighted by the prince, becoming Sir William. He makes the great leap from the lower class to the upper class, and all that was holding him back was his surname. He changed his stars after all. As a kid, William had aspired to become a knight, his dad even sending him off to learn from a knight. And over all those years, William returns to his father as a knight, really changing his stars. Although this didn't create a classless society or cause any great disturbance in the social class divide. This is not a revolt to a socialist society, but is still significant in the change of one man's life. But, as Marxist states, that a true revolution has never actually taken place to create a classless society. Well, what can we learn from this? In conclusion, it is evident that A Knight's Tale supports an anti-Marxist theory, as it supports a divide of social classes, exploitation amongst these classes, and it supports how the society never truly becomes equal, despite the efforts and beliefs of the proletariats. Now, our class is coming to an end. I'd just like to leave you with this last bit of information. It is possible to change your stars. With enough hard work and persistence, never give up. To be noble, one must act nobly, and not just be of noble birth. Your character is far more important to your success than the privileges you are born with. The world is before you. Go out there and be great.